What if I told you that the secret behind East Asian faces might be buried deep in the deserts of southern Africa? And what if the people we often think of as the most African might actually hold the key to understanding why some Asians look the way they do? No, this isn't science fiction. It's a puzzle that rewrites our entire idea of where we came from, and the answers will mess with your head. Let's stick to what we can prove. Every living human being on Earth, yes, including you, me, and that guy who thinks dinosaurs built the pyramids, descends from one single group of Homo sapiens that first evolved in Africa. That happened roughly 300,000 years ago, give or take a few millennia. Then, around 60,000 to 70,000 years ago, something changed. A much smaller group of these early humans picked up and left Africa behind. These were not pale or light-skinned people. They were dark-skinned, tropical-dwelling, full-blooded Africans. And yet, this tiny crew became the ancestors of almost everyone now living outside of Africa. We're talking Europeans, East Asians, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders, the whole global cast. As these first explorers trudged into unfamiliar territories like East and Central Asia, they weren't just sightseeing. They were thrown into a brutal survival game. Colder climates, relentless winds, and a serious lack of sunlight. Over tens of thousands of years, their descendants didn't just adapt, they morphed. That's why today, people from East Asia often have traits like epicanthic eye folds, which help shield against wind and cold, and flatter noses, which are better suited for frigid air. Their bodies even evolved to humidify dry air better and to produce enough vitamin D in places where the sun barely shows up, but they did this using entirely different genes than Europeans. And that's where things start getting weird. There's a group in southern Africa known as the Toma people, sometimes called the Desert Kin. These folks have something unexpected. The same almond-shaped eye folds, pronounced cheekbones, and golden bronze skin tone that we usually link with East Asians. But they're not East Asian at all. So what's going on here? It turns out Africa isn't just the origin of humans. It's also the motherlode of human variation. It holds more genetic diversity than anywhere else on Earth. That means the features we tend to label as Asian might have already been floating around in African DNA way before anyone ever left the continent. In fact, some of these traits may not have migrated at all. They could have developed again somewhere else, completely independently. That's the magic of what scientists call convergent evolution. It's when two completely separate groups, like East Asians and the Toma, end up evolving similar features because they were dealing with similar environmental challenges. In this case, bone-dry wind, brutal desert climates, and blinding sun. So, if both groups developed similar eye folds to protect their eyes in harsh, windy places, even though they lived continents apart, here's the big question. Why didn't people living in other dry places like the Middle East evolve them too? Because their desert life is a fairly recent development, and because their ancestors were always mingling with new groups. That mixing shuffled the genetic deck constantly. And instead of evolving new biological traits, many relied on cultural hacks. Head wraps, face veils, shaded robes. They beat the environment not with DNA, but with fashion. But here's the kicker. East Asians, like everyone else, not currently living in Africa, still trace their roots back to African ancestors. That's the one origin story we all share. So all those facial features people obsess over, the cheekbones, the eyelids, the nose shapes, they're not rigid racial markers. They're just nature's edits, shaped by temperature, UV levels, and tens of thousands of years of waiting around for the next ice age. So maybe the real question isn't, where did East Asians come from? Maybe it's, why do we keep acting like the answer isn't obvious when deep down, we all know it points back to one place, Africa?